the meantime, we wanted to get Tina out on bail pending the appeal. The trial judge said no. He not only said no, but he said no because of what she may say. Well, this is a deprivation of freedom of speech. This is clear from this judge. So that's why we were able to go to the federal court and say to another judge, to a federal court judge, Judge, let her out pending appeal, because the only reason that the trial judge is holding her in is because she may say something.
I thought, so the architecture is something that was Venezuela, Serbia, Chinese, but it also turns out that the CIA discovered all this and was using it by 2009. They were funding an organization called CEPS in Arlington, Virginia, an NGO funded by the CIA/USAID, staffed by George Soros, Open Society, and the mission of this organization was to spread Smartmatic around the world. Billions of dollars were spent in helping countries modernize their elections by installing Smartmatic, and once they did, in 26 nations, we've analyzed it. They installed from it started July of 2009, like 6 months after Obama came to office, and they started getting these computers installed countries all over, from Estonia and Philippines to Ecuador, and just all over. And countries lurch left. They then start having elections where everything lurches left. Well, that's because all of this technology is riddled with backdoors for Serbia. And what Tina did was so instrumental, frankly. It's funny. Can I tie this into Tina, or do you not want to go there? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, please, go ahead.
Why this is so instrumental is Tina's image from Mesa County shows that the election was, that the elections, at some point in the counting process, the election database went from being here to somebody created a new one over here, and the data was siphoned over. No reason not to know. Data's changed. 30% of the votes are flipped or something from here to here, and now this is your election database. So there was a little product placement for Coke and also for, the problem is the database changed. That's what Mesa County report number 3 found. It was found off analyzing the image that Tina risked her life and freedom, it turns out, to obtain, though it was her job to keep the county records. So that what's key, we didn't know from Mesa County report number 3, they didn't know Jeff O'Donnell, who's wonderful. I love Jeff O'Donnell. He never got to, how did that happen? They never found the instruction. Was it a cloaked script? Was there a hidden program within the machine that did that? They never found out how it was done, just that it happened. Well, we know now how it happened. What happens is the machines get logged onto from Serbia through some cutouts, and this manipulation goes on inside the machine run from Serbia, and it takes, a very short amount of time, and they do this. And that's what did the orange juice to Diet Coca-Cola switcheroo in the Mesa County database.
Kind of related, but not really. But could you comment on Tina Peters, who's been locked up behind bars in Colorado within the election? I think you put out a couple of days ago about it.
We have a wonderful woman who was an election official, and she saw cheating in Colorado, and she viewed it as horrible, and she said, "What's going on here?" And she went to the machine, and she tried to open to find out whether or not it was cheating, and they went to her and they said, "Did you touch this machine?" "Yes." And they arrested her. They arrested her instead of the people that did the cheating. It's a state charge, so it's hard to do anything with, but we're gonna do something. What they did in Colorado, look, Colorado just went to all mail-in voting. That means they cheat. That's why they lost. That's one of the reasons, but that's a big reason why they just lost the whole Space Command situation that was going to Alabama. But when you have mail-in voting, you have nothing but cheating. But this woman is a real patriot, and they put her in jail for a long time. She's 72 years old, 73 years old, and she wanted to find out. She didn't do anything. She touched the machine. She looked at the machine. She's trying to find out what was going on. And they went and arrested her for doing that. And it was supposed to be the other way around. I'm glad you brought that up. They should let her go. Let her out. Thank you.
And good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, depending on where you are around this big, beautiful, green, blue earth that we live on, this big, beautiful marble. I'm Ann Vandersteel, and welcome to Steel News. It is 9 o'clock on the East Coast here. I am up in Boston. We had a premiere of our movie, Taken, State-Sanctioned Kidnapping, last Friday. We're exposing CPS. We're doing a lot more with the work that I'm doing now, more as an activist, less on the news side, but I still pop in here to do what I think are really important stories. And this is one that is incredibly important because everything that we're working on hinges on having valid elections. And tonight we're going to confront the elephant in the room. Our elections, the very foundation of this republic, are clearly under siege. If we haven't learned anything in the past 8 years, we've learned that. And there's one lady, one heroine who's in the middle of it all, and she sits languishing in prison right now in the state of Colorado, a state where I went to school, by the way, and did several of my children. We're all buffs. So my husband's a buff, but Tina Peters, she is a county clerk, or was a county clerk from Mesa, Colorado, Mesa County, Colorado. And she did what every public servant is sworn to do. She protected the vote. She preserved the records, and she told the truth. And as of today, September 9th, 2025, Tina Peters has likely been incarcerated for approximately somewhere between 330 to 350 days. I couldn't quite figure it out because she's been in different places, but she's about 11 months behind bars since her sentencing. And immediate custody began in early of October of last year of 2024. And for that, she's been persecuted, prosecuted, and she's been silenced. But tonight, she isn't alone. We're on the cusp of her 70th birthday. Believe it or not, it's 9/11. 9/11 of all the crazy things. And tonight I'm bringing together some of the fiercest voices in America to put the facts on the table. These are people who put it on the line for a long time. I've interviewed some of these people going back to the beginning of my journey at Steel Truth. And that has been one hell of a wild ride. And I could feel it. You can feel the atmosphere right now. The momentum is building. There's something very big we're on the cusp of. And it's just everywhere. Look around the world. I mean, the world is popping off everywhere you look. Macron should be probably on a jet out of his country by now. France going off. And I love it. The French are just totally popping off. But it all comes down to elections. And what we've witnessed over the last 20 plus years around the world is the world seems to be taking a hard turn to the left. And it seems rather drastic and rather sudden. So if that's so true, why is everybody popping off? Well, we're going to show you what's called cast vote records. We're going to show you some data anomalies. We're going to show you the clear evidence of a system designed to keep you powerless. And this isn't about left or right. It's about the regime versus the American people. It's the regime versus the world, humanity. And if they can do this to a 70-year-old grandmother, a 70-year-old Gold Star mom, a 70-year-old whose husband was stolen from her, this is a public official. They can do it to you. And if we don't fix it, Well, 2024 may be the last, well, I could say, real election this nation ever sees. So buckle up. This is Trump versus the regime, the Tina Peters showdown and birthday celebration. We have joining me this evening for this incredible lineup 4 incredible guests. First up is Roger Arnoff. He's an independent data analyst, retired from a career designing microchips, who has done his level best to stay in the background. And tonight, he's decided to come out and come into the public arena, and he's going to give us this very technical, lowdown. And then we're going to meet with Patrick Byrne, founder of the America Project, former CEO of Overstock. We have Joe Hoft of joehoft.com and the Gateway Pundit. And rounding it out this evening, Mike Lindell. I think we all know the incredible Mike Lindell, who brought Tina Peters into the spotlight when he had his cyber symposium. So first up, let me bring Roger on the stage here. Roger, it is great to be with you. Thank you for joining me this evening on this Tina Peters birthday special. And folks, if you're watching this right now, please do me a solid. Share this out live everywhere. Jump in the chat. I see we have Constitution MAGA Mama, who's here. Thank you so much for sharing this. We have Mitchell, who popped in, and a variety of others. So please, by the way, do everything you can to get this out. Roger, thanks for being here. We have short time with all the guests today, so I want to get right into what you're going to talk about because it's very technical.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. Thank you for doing the show. Basically, I'm here kind of representing Edward Solomon, who is actually the pioneer at doing this kind of a mathematical analysis of the election records. The first thing we want to look at is this slide. What this slide shows is the red line is Trump voters that voted no on a measure, a tax measure in Colorado, and the one on the left is El Paso County, and
Yep.
this is fairly that you'd see Republicans voting no at a much higher percentage than Democrats voting no on this
Okay.
kind of issue. So the Democrats who are voting no are down at the bottom. Okay, and the aggregate is the purple line in the middle. Okay, that's El Paso County, and then what you see on the right is the exact same formulation of a graph, but from the data from Arapahoe County from 2020. And what you see is the two lines are right on top of each other to the point where they obscure the purple line.
Right.
And this is completely abnormal. This is what we call lockstep motion. Every point in the counting process. This is not in the voting process or the mail ballot process or anything like that. This is just as you go through counting the ballots, you counted 10% of the ballots. That's the average at this point, or 25% halfway through. But the Republicans, it's like when a Republican yes vote comes in or a Republican no vote comes in, they flip the next Democrat vote to be a yes, so to pass this issue, so that they raise taxes on the people in Colorado. Okay, so if we go to the next slide. Okay, so the one on the left is that graph in a different form, just black, and the one on the right is let me see. It shows up the same kind of thing. This one on the right is a ranked choice, is 2024. So it's
Right.
it's Trump and Harris voting no and no on a ranked choice voting issue. And so but the same sort of lockstep motion shows up. Now this could only happen if during the counting process, some sort of algorithm is running on these in
Right.
software on these machines. Okay, so in the cast vote record from Arapahoe County was on their website for 4 years, and so we started talking about this stuff. Edward started talking about this stuff last October, when with this lockstep motion in Arapahoe,
Right.
and there's a case going on in Nevada where this is evidence in the case that the machines are rigging things with this kind of algorithms. This is
Sure.
evidence in the case, that lockstep motion. So in
Okay.
April of this year, 2025, Arapahoe County very quietly replaced the cast vote record on their website. with the
Isn't
with
that interesting?
the file. It's a zip file. It has the same name, but everything inside it is different, including, the original zip file was an XLSX, and the new one's a CSV. The sizes are completely different. If you go down a bit, okay, this one talks about what they changed. They changed 15 million votes.
That's not insignificant, Roger. That's not insignificant. They changed 15 million votes just in Colorado.
In Arapahoe County. Well, no, this is the difference between the original cast vote record and this replacement cast vote record.
Okay.
In Arapahoe County, there's 350,000, roughly 350,000 ballots. The original cast vote record showed this lockstep motion. The new cast vote record doesn't show the lockstep motion. They changed the cast vote record because we have it in evidence in a court case. They changed it so that when we got to the court case, we tried to show this. They say, oh, it never showed that. We have forensic copies of the original data, but for 4 years, the cast vote record on Arapahoe County had this lockstep motion in it. Then they changed the data, and they changed everything around. So let me see. Go back a bit. Okay, we'll go back to that one. So this is just a measure of what's going on. Basically, what happens is that the software in the machines during the counting process takes apart the ballot. It takes the candidates on the ballot and separates them from the ballot measures on the ballot. It adjusts the candidate races so that they have the outcome of the candidates they want, and it adjusts the ballot measure stuff so they has what they want. Then they put it back together and put out the cast vote record. So what happened here in Colorado, we think, is that the machine choked, and they didn't finish the third step. Okay. Got it. So what it tells us, what my opinion is that they're doing a three-step algorithm and producing a forged cast vote record in the original first place. Then in Arapahoe County, when they found out that we had caught them, they replaced the cast vote record with a cast vote record that does not show the lockstep motion. Okay, so if you can go back up to, let me see, this slide with the yellow and the green, yeah, that one. So in the middle there, you see the original cast vote record, where the red and the blue are right on top of each other, and the yellow and the green are producing the same graph, the same method of producing this graph, but the data has been changed so that the yellow is now the Republican and the green is the Democrat, and they're separated by about 30%, which is what you'd see in all the other counties. They went back and did the third step and replaced the file on the website. So here's the rub. The cast vote record is the basis for certification of the election. How can they change it? How can they change it 4 years later? More than 4 years later. How can they change it? It's like going back and changing all the stats. It's like going back and working on the World Series. You change the scores of every game. You change all the stats, the RBIs, the hits, the errors on all the players in the whole World Series from 2000, and you just put up a new record. It's so horribly corrupt. It's incredible.
Yeah, you know what?
They didn't tell anybody. This is evidence in the court case in Nevada. They didn't tell anybody. They were changing it. And
this is what I see time and time again, Roger. I broke a story recently on the IRS. It's the same thing. They are creating records, but there's no physical paper trail of it. And they're creating them to entrap people and deleting them in the system. And of course, when you take it to court, the DOJ and the judicial system says, we don't see any records. There's nothing there. Well, fortunately, we have people that are catching the anomalies in the system and getting screenshots of it to prove what they're doing. And that's exactly what you're doing here. This is a playbook that's wash, rinse, and repeat for this federal government to steal our country. It's a concerted effort to overthrow, to insurrect.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and you've got it all. You and Solomon and gosh, a team of people. There's thousands, tens of thousands of volunteers around this country. And Tina Peters, she is the birthday girl, and this is her. This is her 70th birthday. This was actually your idea, Ann. Can you do something for Tina Peters? I'm like, well, kind of, sure. I'm not in my studio. I'm traveling. I had a documentary, and I'm celebrating other things going on. But let's celebrate Tina, because you know what? We should pull everything over and celebrate this woman. No matter what you're doing, we should stop what you're doing and take a minute to appreciate her. I'd like you to give a message to Tina Peters, because, this is the woman of the hour, and this is the woman that we should all be celebrating right now.
Go down to the one where it's got three graphs on the same page. Okay.
Okay. And I've got to wrap this up because I've got other guests that are also waiting.
Okay,
I can only do 15 minutes per guest. Okay.
Go
So
down
it has
to
a three graphs.
Three graphs on one page. Okay. Down.
Three graphs on one page. That's
there.
this.
This is
Okay.
the 2020. This is the 2021 Mesa County election that where Tina noticed that there was a problem. These are the
Okay.
county supervisors. They were all Democrat incumbents from the last rig, and the Republicans had done a very good job of spreading the word about how the schools were getting screwed up, but all the Democrats won with the same number of votes in every race. And that's what got Tina starting to look at it. And these are Edwards things. These all follow that formula up in the upper left corner. They're all right on that formula. Okay. To like 1 in 10 trillion kind of a chance of it happening naturally.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that Tina found. And by preserving that disc, she brought it out to where it could be looked at, and everybody's saying there's nothing to look at, but there's a lot to look at. So Tina, we're going to get you out. Okay.
What's your thoughts on that? What does that path to getting Tina out look like before I bring in our next guest?
Well, I'm with some other people that we should deputize 500 or 1,000 Marines as U.S. Marshals and send them in.
Send them in where? To Colorado?
To the prison.
To where?
To the prison.
To
Surround
the prison. 500 marshals. Okay.
If they need tanks, whatever they need, surround the prison.
Wow.
They'll go away smoothly and happily when Tina's released. But if they're sworn in as U.S. Marshals, then there's a big precedent for this. In D.C. after January 6, 2021, there were 25,000 troops there. 2,500 of the reservists who had been activated for that event were sworn as U.S. Marshals. So when they're sworn in dual service like that as U.S. Marshals, they can be used to do law enforcement activities on the population inside the country, right. Because as U.S. Marshals, they're not subject to the Posse Comitatus Act. So I think that Tina is a critical witness to what I've been showing here is criminal activity it's treasonous criminal activity to overthrow the president of the United States.
Sure.
And that she's a material witness to conspiracy to overthrow the government. And that they can go in there and pull her out and put her in protective custody.
Amen.
And I think if it needs 1,000 Marines with tanks and helicopters, go ahead, please.
Right. Well, listen, you're not going to get any rebuttal from me. I see Tina definitely as a federal witness, and she should be treated as such. She should be in protective custody of the U.S. Marshals. I remember talking to Peter Berniger about that a while ago. Months and months ago. And I thought, well, that would have happened already. It hasn't. And I'm not sure what the holdup is. I'm sure there's a lot of good reasons, but of which none of them I'll like or ever accept. But that's also my optimism because I believe she deserves to be out. She did nothing wrong. She did her job. She served. But
I
this
mean,
is part and parcel with the rot. Yeah.
Just the act of trying to remove Trump from the ballot by Jenna
Absolutely.
Griswold is borderline craziness to me.
Yeah, I agree. I want to thank Josh Pruitt. He sent Tina a birthday card and a letter. That is so kind. Lots of folks, Boston Broadside's reposting this stream. Thank you, Boston Broadside. And Chris has a question here. When is his admin going to abolish the freaking IRS and all the rest of this government? Frankly, I couldn't agree more. I think our founding fathers were clear on that: alter or abolish, right?
Yeah, 95% of it.
95% of it should definitely
the 95% of it that doesn't fall under Article 1, Section 8. Okay.
That's exactly right. Those 19 enumerated powers of Congress. Exactly.
Yep.
Roger Arnoff, I know you are pinch hitting for some of the people that have done some brilliant work. Your good friend, Mr. Edward Solomon, who I've known you all for years now. Bobby Piton also back up in Illinois. What a team, what a crew. I feel like it's getting the band together sometimes when I do these little calls with folks. So this is awesome. We've got Mike Lindell also in the green room. Patrick is texting me right now. Unfortunately, I think he's in a dead zone. He just said that he's I don't even think he's getting my message. He just said his link isn't working to come in here. So I might move into Mike Lindell here next. Joe Hoft is due on deck any minute now as well.
I'd like everybody to recognize that Edward Solomon has been working on this stuff like 24 hours a day for 5 years. Yeah. He's the only one in the world, up to a few months ago, when I managed to catch up to him a little bit, and who's been able to do these intensive, we call them hyper complex mathematics to find these rigs. So
it's a talent. You have to see it. You have to see it. It's not like you sit there with an abacus and a computer. You look at it and you can see the anomaly. I look at it and it looks like Greek to me, but that's the mind that you have.
the stuff we've been doing lately is, Edward would take days to do one analysis of against this measure B. There's 11 ballot measures. They all show that lockstep. Nobody ever knew that. I've done what I've done with Edward is I write programs. So I wrote these programs to automate what Edward did with a spreadsheet, so that now we can do this in-depth analysis in hours instead of days. So
I would like you to quickly explain why you think we shouldn't have voter rolls and we shouldn't have voter registration.
Okay, go back to the slideshow and go back up a few pages to where you see a spreadsheet with red and yellow and stuff. Okay, that's it right there. This is Colorado. Yeah. And what I did, this is what I was doing back in 2022. And what you see is over here on the right, you'll see population in the census. This is county by county in Colorado. So it's population by census, the percentage that's under 18. Okay, so over in the left-hand side, I calculate from that census data, I calculate the eligible population in the county. Then I'll go to the website and I got the registered population in the county. And the registered fraction in column E there that shows the percentage of the eligible population that's registered. And everyone that's red is over 100%.
Right.
More than 100%. So 24 counties in Colorado out of the 64 counties have more than 100% of the eligible population registered.
Right. Fraud.
And now, what percentage of those are illegals too?
We don't.
That?
Yeah.
Okay. So 24% have over 100%. Another 24 counties have somewhere between 90 and 100%. And this is ridiculous. Back in the 90s, you would see 65% of the population would get registered and only half of them would vote. So you'd only see about 30 or 35% of the eligible population. We don't have any state in the union now that's below 55 or 60% of the eligible population voting. Oklahoma is the best at 55%. Okay. So the registration rolls, I think they're completely hopeless. Short of throwing them all out completely and making everybody re-register, There's no answer. There's no way to get them cleaned up for 2026. My push right now is that when the HAVA was created, that created these registration requirements, it was in 2020. It was in 2002, and in 2005 they created the Real ID Act.
Right.
The Real ID Act requires citizenship, proof of citizenship to get it. It has your residence address on it and your
Right.
birthday. Throw away the registrations. Require that you show up in person at a polling place and you show your real ID, and it corresponds to a list for that precinct.
Okay.
Then you can vote. It's all done.
Okay.
It's all there.
That's that simple. Okay.
And because the way the Real ID Act is written, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, can order this anytime. It says
there you go.
She can order it anytime. She can order that Real ID be presented to vote.
That seems very straightforward. Roger, yeah. I've got to let you go. I've got Joe Hoft waiting in the wings, and then we've got Mike Lindell. So I appreciate you for coming on. I appreciate you giving me this idea. I was glad I was able to pull it together quickly and bring in what I consider to be an all-star cast, Tina Peters lineup, people who have been with her from the beginning. You represent some of the best and brightest minds that have looked at this data. There are tens of thousands of people that have done incredible work around the country. I want to give them all their due because so many people are standing with Tina Peters, but they stand for this country, our Constitution, and our right to vote and be in free and fair elections and not have our rugs pulled out from underneath us the way they have for many years. And it's not just in this country, which is what Tina has proven. She's proven this has been going on around the world, and our CIA is very involved in all of this. And so we have a lot.
Look at Myanmar. Look at
Myanmar. Roger Arnoff, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to cut to Joe Hoft here, who was waiting in the wings. I appreciate you, man.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, and I'm really glad you did this show.
You got it. Take care. All right. Wow. I'm sorry I'm going to move quickly here, but I want to keep everybody moving in. Joe, it is awesome to see you again. Thanks for popping in on short notice. You have been somebody who has been publishing and posting about Tina Peters now for not only Tina Peters, but the elections and the theft of this country for years since all this has gone down. And, you're one of the go-tos out there, and you host events all over the country. So thank you for being here. Let's talk a little bit about what you see as the current 50,000-foot view and how close are we to getting, one, Tina out of prison from your perspective, but two, getting a handle on these elections so that we can actually see what's what in 2026.
Ann, thanks for having me. It's great seeing you. Great being on your show. It's a great idea what you're doing. Just fantastic stuff. So thanks again. Thanks for having me here. It's great to be here. Talking about Tina, we could talk really all day. I did an interview with Tina not long ago. She called me and we talked about what's going on, and it was really moving. I called her and it's not. I'll get to this post in 1 second, but she was as we talked more about the country, about President Trump, about during this conversation that I had with her, she's asking me how I'm doing. She's in prison asking me, well, so how are you doing, Joe? And stuff like that. And it was just a really incredible discussion. Here's this lady in prison, wrongly in prison, unjustly, just terribly, as we all know. And she did nothing wrong. She did everything right, like so many people. And this is what we're facing right now too, Ann. It's the people that stand up and share the truth. They're the ones, the truth tellers are the greatest enemy to this evil attempted coup of the United States. They do not like us truth tellers, and that's why we get hammered. And whether it be in whatever way, whether it's shadow banned, whether it's doxxed, whether it's
down,
sued, whatever it might be. That's what they do, and it's to stop us. And they have two goals: bankrupt and silence us, maybe imprison us, and watch us, feel pain and tortured until we just die. So that's really, I think, ultimately what they want. We saw that with Trump, and we're seeing it with Tina. So, anyways, amazing that she's asking about me. So, I can remember, meeting Tina. She's a wonderful woman, all that, and I wrote an article. This is, I guess, maybe 2 years ago now, or a year and a half, where I was writing I had received information from a young woman in Denver who knew Tina, and she'd visited her. And this young woman had said that Tina told her that, hey, if something happens to her, she was still being bounced around in jails before they put her in prison. If anything happens, just tell people I'm not suicidal. And I thought, wow, this is pretty moving. And I put it up. And this lady had some, great information where she'd met Tina, talking to Tina. And Tina was under tremendous abuse then in this jail system in Colorado. And so I put that up. And what happened was about 2 or 3 weeks later, I get an email from an elderly woman who shared with me. She says, Joe, if you could you please share that article that you wrote about Tina with President Trump? If you could just do that, please do it. And she said, I'm Tina Peters' 96-year-old mother. And I read that and it really moved me. And, if you can, kids, is there anything you could do to help her? And, I got to tell you, and that brings everything back to perspective too. It's so much like Tina, like her story. It's like this, I didn't even know she had a mother that was still alive. And she is, and she's watching her daughter go through this hell. And I can't imagine what it's like to her. So the best thing we could do is get her out of that, nightmare situation. If not only, why not for her mother? And I think her dad die while she was in jail?
Her dad died
right?
while she was in prison.
So, this is not right. This is just really, really evil, dark stuff.
She's lost her son. Her son died. She's a Gold Star mom. Her husband was divorced from her. He was in a memory care unit, and they put paperwork in front of him and had him divorce her. He didn't even know what he was doing. He has Alzheimer's.
Right.
Her dad died. And, and now you're getting these heartfelt letters from her mother. It's like,
it's unbelievable
what this woman has done for this country. And I watched Patrick Burns' interview the other day with Apollo on Truth Matters on Tina Peters' show. And he explained how, Tina Peters, exposed the CIA, exposed the fact that we now have irrefutable evidence that we've been doing this, or not we, we, meaning our intelligence community, has been doing this in concert with Smartmatic and the Venezuelan thugs around the world for 20 plus years in 70 some countries. Like, this is insane. And we wonder, why are these countries taking hard turns to the left? It's because their elections are rigged. And look what's going on. France is popping off. Brazil's popping off. I mean, these countries that have been infiltrated are popping off. And when you have paper ballot elections in Argentina, a socialist country, all of a sudden a libertarian gets elected. Hello, the world isn't left. It's just the powers that be,
Yeah. I agree. And and they try to believe us. Everything they do is a lie too. You just, once you know that, then you're way ahead of everybody else. Everything the left says is a lie. I believe now that probably around 80% of Americans are with Trump. And I based that on a recent poll. I saw this in 2020 or in 2024 in the polling. There'd be like 65% of Americans believe January 6th was a setup. 62% said the election was stolen. Those numbers to me were consistent with support for President Trump, and I think they grew up to after the assassination attempt. I think he just rocketed out of the to the heavens, really, and we had this incredible moment with him. And now they're saying 78% of the American people are saying, no, we believe our rights come from God, and we stand with Trump on that. And that to me that's a message, a sign that no, there isn't a bunch of lefties that are half the population here or more in California or whatever. That's not true. The truth is that we are the majority, and the only way, and Trump said this in one of his truths recently, the only way they win is through cheating, because nobody's buying this garbage trans stuff and everything else. So, So anyways, I wanted to share that article with you about Tina's mom. That really rocked me. And then the other piece that has come up, I think, more recently. Tina called me one day, and got on my show. I was running a show at Conservative Daily, and she shared with me. She said, "This is the most important thing I want to share, and I just want to get it out." And she wanted to get the word out. She was saying that there's this supremacy clause in the Constitution. Now, this has been probably last summer-ish that she did this. And and we talked about it, and I looked it up, and what it says basically, and it's right there in the Constitution. It says in matters where there's a conflict between the federal government and the state, and of course I'm no constitutional scholar, but this is my understanding. It's that the federal government trumps out. Federal government wins, and there was reasons for why they did this, because our federal government was so weak before this Constitution, and it's worked really well for a couple centuries now. That's the way things are done. The federal government, in return, does a number of things and supposed to provide a safe border and security, et cetera, for the American people, which they haven't done under Biden. But anyways, Tina raised this. She says, the federal statutes state that I'm supposed to be, saving the information from the election. And it's defined as basically anything involved in the election, whether it be electronic or hard copy. And you're supposed to keep it for like up to around 2 years. And she said she was doing her job, and that's what they arrested her for. And the federal government has statutes that she was adhering to. So the fact that the state then made up crimes against her, found an absolute corrupt, disgusting piece of work as this judge who was just vile, just disgusting. The way he talked to this beautiful woman and said, "You'll do it again." That was one thing in my call with her recently. She said, well, she talked about this. She says, and I do it again. And, we're all proud of her. We're like, yeah, this lady's a woman, a woman of character and integrity. That judge said the same thing to her. And there's no doubt in my mind that you do it again. And he blaming her as if she'd committed some sort of crime. He was a joke. He was disgusting. I question actually if the guy's getting paid off or what. It was so disgusting where he was, the position that he took. Have you seen those videos of him?
Oh God! I watched all of them, and when you interview people like Sean Taylor and others that have done the deep dives, I've got a team right now that's overlapping the work that Sean Taylor did, the assistant police chief from Tennessee. The linkages and the money we have in the investigations I've done in CPS, we have judges taking bribes through PayPal's. We have the receipts. Wow. So if you think that's going on, and how sophisticated they were with laundering money through the mortgages, I remember in 2017, right after Rudy Contreras from the FISA court stepped down after Flynn was removed as NSA, he stepped down. If you remember he recused. There was somebody from the federal government who reached out to me through LinkedIn and said, look over here. And they showed me a file where there was a home in Maricopa County that was bought and sold 3 times in one day. And guess who owned the home? And the price kept going up. Rudy Contreras. Wow. And I didn't know what I was looking at. I said, what am I looking at here?
Yeah, there's even a bigger story there. There's something really, really suspect with all that. What's going on? Most of these homes, you look at them, they're just kind of very average homes. It's not like they're palaces that they're buying. It's Adam Schiff, Weissman, Letitia James, as we know. There's a number of people that are involved in this. Raskin, he's got some properties now. I hope the feds go into look at all these guys, So it's a shame. But anyways, going back to this position about supremacy clause, I talked to a top attorney in the administration about this. I said, well, here's the deal. If they push this through the state court, and if you could get it in the federal court, Trump could pardon her. And what they did was they ignored the supremacy clause, and they also ignored all the federal government people that were involved in this. The FBI raided Tina's home. The FBI raided Sharona Bishop's home. They had a phone call, a conference call with the county individuals there. Christopher Wray was on it, the head of the FBI, as well as Merrick Garland, the head of the DOJ. There's other one of the U.S. attorneys or the U.S. district attorney was involved in emails as they were planning out what her crimes would be. And there's a lot of evidence there to say that, hey, this never should have been labeled a state crime because there was so much federal intervention. And the individual I spoke with said, well, yes, and people are looking at this. This was probably half year ago now, it was since the election or since the inauguration. And the thing is that if the federal government, especially like Christopher Wray and Merrick Garland, if they were running this thing, then that would give more, I think, support for the fact that you would be able to move this to federal court and shut this thing down, because it's such a train wreck and such a lie. So that's been the dilemma. I don't know if Trump just sends people in and just takes her out of there. I don't know what's going to happen, but we've got a crisis, Ann. We've got a crisis.
We do have a crisis, and Roger Arnoff, who was on before you, said I think we sent 500 U.S. Marshals in there, surround the prison with tanks, and we'd go and get her.
Yeah. Well, this is really where we're at. We've got these judges. I was talking to somebody about this today. They're not doing anything that's
they're not following the law. They're making it up as they go. They're just making these up as they go.
That's exactly what happened here. They came up with charges. They didn't give her a fair trial. She's not able to present evidence or testimony or bring in other individuals to testify for her. The judge was absolutely conflicted. Everything was just...
This was a shot across the bow at all of us, right? Just like what they tried to do to Trump. It was to scare us, and like they did with the J6ers, and this is that was their stark reminder. We will do it to you. Yeah. If we can do it to them, we will do it to you. And this is why we have to get this election sorted. Why, Mike Lindell, who really put Tina Peters on the map. I remember the cyber symposium like it happened yesterday, because so much happened during that cyber symposium. It was insane, including Mike getting attacked on the elevator. And I remember when he brought Tina Peters in, and we were like, who is this woman? What is going on here? Where did she come from? And, it was just, it was crazy. And today she represents all of us. In fact, she represents the world when it comes to election integrity and the theft of nation sovereignty and the will of the people. And I think that's why people are so pissed off all over the world. They've realized everything's been stolen. And, really there are more of us than them when it comes down to it. And we're starting to see this swell. The swell of the people. And I'm looking at General Flynn's posts, and, he's like, okay, I think the people are speaking. Pam Bondi, when are you going to start making some arrests there, lady? Yeah. Yeah. We're all feeling it. We're all just agitated, and we've been the adults in the room and kept our powder dry. Yeah. And they've been shooting at us. Look at Ashley Babbitt. Look at the DOD's poison death shots. And, and they've been killing us for a while now. And we're to the point where we're like, this isn't going to work anymore.
That's enough. That's enough. We're going to keep sharing the truth. And if you don't like it, then we're going to get, then you're not going to be in those roles anymore, because we need judges that stand by the truth. We need prosecutors and people in our government as well. I think a big move today was a judge that was a Nestle judge in Michigan, a state judge that was appointed by the Attorney General. There was some sort of correlation to the Attorney General, just ruled that those 16 or so Trump delegates, that case she threw out. So that was good, but these people need to be compensated for all the harm that they suffered since the 2020 election for standing up and again doing something absolutely lawful where there's precedence. It absolutely made sense. So maybe there's some movements in this regard. I feel it. I really do. I think we got to keep charging ahead though, and not cower to these cowards, because that's the thing they don't like. So I think
so. This was another article I want to. Yeah. I want to end on this piece with you, Joe, because I've got Mike Lindell waiting in the wings. But, you said federal actions arguably allow President Trump the ability to step in and pardon Tina Peters. So you feel very, very strongly about this, right?
There is, like I said, if they can prove that the federal government, meaning Merrick Garland, Christopher Wray, were behind this, then I think there's every ounce of support for them to be able to pardon her on a federal basis and get her out of there. So that's one alternative I know that some people are looking at.
Well, this is exciting. If you can stick around, I'm gonna bring Mike Lindell in here next. I'd like to get Mike to kind of bring us up to speed. And again, when you think of election integrity, and you said it earlier, the majority of the country now is coming back closer to God, which is one of the things Mike said in the very beginning. I'll never forget it. This is going to be the greatest revival for Jesus Christ. And I thought to myself, oh, Jesus Christ, what is he talking about? We had our country stolen. I see it so clearly now. And, Mike was
Yeah.
one of my inspirations to get baptized in July of 2021
Wow.
because I started to put it all together and I realized, we've always said good and evil, but now we have scope, we have hindsight is 2020, we can see the big picture and I see it for what it really is. And, Mike has been the biggest, loudest voice for this. And talk about someone who's taken heat.
Yeah, no doubt.
He's taken massive heat and he's managed to keep it together, keep his company together, keep those people employed. And he's been so generous with everybody for so long. So, I
He's a
really
hero.
want to, he's a hero. He's a hero. So
Yeah.
Joe, stick around if you can.
Okay.
I'm going to bring Mike in right now. And,
Great.
I just really
Thanks.
appreciate everything you've been there and done for this country yourself. You're a hero. Thank you,
you.
Joe.
Thank you.
All right. Hang on one second. Let's get our good buddy in here. Let me take Joe out and bring in the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Pillow, Mike Lindell. Good to see you. I remember the first time I interviewed you. Annie, are you going to CPAC this year? Yes, sir.
Well, thank you, and Joe. Thank you, and Joe, for the kind words. I'll tell you, you talk about God having His hand in all this. I was just with the president last Wednesday, and I told him, I said, Mr. President, you remember last summer when I told you, with God, all things are possible, and Him working through you, you'll get this fixed faster than anyone. And he looked at me and goes, yeah, I remember that. I said, you're doing it even faster than I could ever imagine. And of course, we talked about Tina. This is the fourth time I've met him with Tina. And I'll tell you, everybody, you go back to that cyber symposium when you brought that up, Ann. I mean, that was like the ground zero where everything, that was probably the most 3 days, the most bizarre 3 days I can remember. It was just a spiritual battle, everybody, that we've been in now for the world of good and evil just colliding. And when Tina bravely took that stage, first time I had ever met her, and she took that stage and she never looked back. And I remember putting her down to Texas to be protected. The very first night her hotel was broken into when she went out to eat. And we know she had to be tracked, and this was it. And it was, I had just been attacked at the cyber symposium. There were so many spy planes flying back and forth overhead, CIA, you name it. And one of the things I want everybody to realize, Joe brought up an interesting, I'm going to tell you what the president's going to be doing, and I'll tell you all that in a second. But he brings up an interesting thing there about that this being a federal case. The FBI went around and took not just my phone, but everyone that was involved with Tina. They took mine at a Hardee's. The way they did it, you guys that surrounded me, if it had been in the middle at night, I've been around the block. I would have bashed through them. They didn't look like no FBI guys. They didn't wear glasses like Men in Black. I would have bashed through them and went out looking for a real policeman. I was coming back from a hunting trip. Boy, that would have been easy to shoot me full of holes and say, oh, a big shootout with the pillow guy. He was a conspiracy theorist or whatever it would be. And I'll tell you, the FBI just gave that phone back a week ago. I got back to Minnesota. It's back 3 years to the day later. Okay. And for 3 years, remember everybody, I took that phone to the Supreme Court. I took it here to the federal court in Minnesota. And it was the principal thing. They took the phone and, oh, by the way, it comes back. Well, there was nothing to see here. So you think of all the phones. They took mine. They took Dr. Frank's. They took Conan Hayes, who was never even brought into the trial with Tina. There were so many things blocked from coming into that trial. And that corrupt, evil judge to sit there and go, you would do it again? Yes, she would. She was out speaking to save her country. That's what she was doing. And it's just, but I'll tell you, those FBI guys at that Hardee's 3 years ago, I told my buddy, I said, I said, something's going down. And I said, don't, just stay here. And I reached out the side door and I said, who are you and what do you want? He flipped and he says, FBI. He says, I don't believe you. Show me a badge. He showed me a badge and I said, how about you? I don't believe you. Show me a badge. And he showed me a badge. So I said, okay, bad guys wouldn't probably carry 2 badges. So we pull over and they go, we're not arresting you, but we just want to ask you some questions. And And I said, no, I want to get arrested. This is what I said. I want to get arrested. I want to go to the January 6th trial, even though I wasn't there. And they go, Mike, we're not those FBI guys. You guys, I sat there and argued with those FBI guys. Then I find out 2 of them are from Colorado. And I go, oh, this is about Tina Peters. I said, you should be ashamed of yourself for bashing doors down there like Sharona Bishop. And then the FBI guy goes, well, Sharona didn't open her door fast enough. I said, what are we all supposed to carry little egg timers and go, quick, 32, 33, quick, the FBI's here, open the door before they bash it down as they're having breakfast with their daughter. I'll tell you what. I turned to those FBI guys and I said, you know what? You guys should be ashamed of yourself. Where's your moral compass? And they go, Mike, we're just doing our job. We're just doing our job. I sat there for an hour and a half. We talked about Jesus. I sat there and evangelized to them, these people that are, we're just doing our job. So don't tell me this wasn't a planned federal case. This was an example to show us all, just like every one of us. If you speak out, and you're a business, we're going to destroy your business like MyPillow. We're going to destroy everything about you if you speak out like Mike Lindell. If you stand up and do your job like Tina Peters, we're going to destroy you. And this is just even recently in Sherry County in Arkansas, they had an election down there. If you go back 2 years in Cleburne County, Arkansas, they voted out the machines to go to paper. Another crooked uniparty Republican named Kim Hammers shoves a bill through and said, if you're a county in Arkansas and you go to paper ballots, we're defunding your county. Gee, who's the governor of that state? Oh, Sarah Huckabee. Okay, Sarah, why did you let this happen? Now, Searcy County said, we're brave, and we don't care if we get funded. We're going to go and we're going to do paper ballots. You guys, just a couple weeks ago, they had to go to like this board court, this mediation court board of directors, because they were going to say they couldn't help in elections for 14 years. Because why? Because they didn't spend enough money on their elections. Give me a break. I told the president all this. It's disgusting, the blockers that are out there and the lawfare that's been done. And the number one worst person in this country is that it happened to is Tina Peters. She's sitting there, and the president, when I met with them 4 times. He's getting her out. I'm telling you. He said it 2 weeks ago. He said, Colorado, he said, I want her out now. Or things are going to things are going to happen. I forget, I'm paraphrasing. Well, just this last Wednesday, he knows he can get her out as a federal witness in a witness protection program. And I said, Tina would love to be anywhere just out of there. And, well, who would be the plaintiff? I'm sorry, who would be the one that you're a witness against? Well, of course, crooked Jenna Griswold, the Secretary of State of Colorado. And I told the president, she's equal to crooked Brad Rassenberger down in Georgia, these Secretary of States in our country. But I give Brad even a little extra credit because he's got an R before his name. He's about as evil as it comes. Jenna Griswold, what she did, the felonies she committed, everybody, these are felonies. You have to hold your election records for 22 months by federal law, 25 months by Colorado law. They deleted the trusted bill. That's what Tina did a backup when she heard this was coming. And so did other clerks, by the way, a couple others. But of course, they got scared when they started to make an example out of Tina, and they grabbed their stuff, right? But when they deleted the 2020 election, in my case, where I'm already sued for billions of dollars by these machine companies, that's called spoliation. You just threw away evidence, you just erased the evidence. It's like throwing a gun in a river going, hey, I'm sorry, I threw away the weapon. It's so crooked in Colorado. And so I believe that getting her out would probably be the easiest. You take her out under the Federal Witness Protection Program, because you know what? Everyone says, well, she wouldn't need to be protected. Oh, I believe she would. And it's funny that they haven't done. I heard earlier on your show that she was said, hey, I'm not suicidal. You think of the courage that Tina has, that she sat before that judge when that judge just belittled her and said, you've been out there on your show, you've been out there, you would do it again, and you're spewing these lies. They were lies. She's trying to save her country because it's just like, I can't even compare to that, Ann. I was in solitary once for things I've done in the past for 19 days, once for drinking and violating my monitors and drugs. Nothing compared to being inside for something you didn't do. And for the length of time, it makes me want to cry. But I will tell you this, it's all the stuff that they've done and attacked, and so many people backed down, and a lot of them did. Once they seen Tina, there were many lawyers, and I could name some, that backed down and said, "Oh, we're going to make a deal so that we don't have to go to jail," because we were in a different time. And I will tell you, there were courageous people down in Arizona, and this was on a Friday night. I'll never forget it. Cochise County, and I think another county down there, and they weren't going to certify their electors, the election down there, the crooked election down in Arizona. And we had all the clerks on the phone, and I had Kurt Olson, the great Kurt Olson, on the phone. And I remember the one gal going, we've been threatened. They say they're going to put us in jail. And if we certify, and Kurt goes, "You've done nothing wrong. You're not going to go to jail." And I go, "Kurt, you can't guarantee her that." I said, "Not in the times we're in right now." I said, "With this stuff going on, you can't guarantee that." And Kurt goes, "No, you're right." And I said, "Ma'am, what I can guarantee you is," I said, "I will be there for you. I'll try and bail you out. I'll do everything I can to get you out if you guys all be courageous." Well, they all backed down because they had such fear. Another thing, Ann, you talk about judges, and this is what Tina Peters stands for, and is courage. And I'll tell you, judges that are out there, they're not all crooked, everybody. They're not all crooked. Imagine if you're a judge and you get a call going, "Hey, you're living with a pretty nice family." Anybody that's read my book, when I was in trouble with the mafia back in the days, owing them money for football bets as a 22-year-old kid, and I'm gonna get written on, "Pay by tonight." We know you don't care about yourself, but you're living with a pretty nice family. These things they become very real, and the fear it's overwhelming. So a lot of these judges you don't know, but I say you just brought it up, and I was gonna bring it up. Joe brought it up. You guys, there's so much hope. This judge today that ruled to free or to let go those charges of those 15 electors, they were alternate electors in Michigan. They were going to get life in prison. They could get up to life in prison for just doing their job. And we were in so many anomalies, and we still are. And this is what I said to you back then, Ann. I said, and I told the president this, a couple years ago. And by the way, a couple years ago, when I introduced Tina Peters to our president, he called her a hero then, by the way. We were down in Mar-a-Lago. I introduced Tina to the president, and he goes, "You're a hero." And, now to him, she's like a triple hero of all time. I was with him. He sat there in that Oval Office on Wednesday.
She should be on Rushmore.
And for 5-10 minutes, but he's going to do everything he can. But I will tell you this. I told the president, this is a couple of years ago, or maybe a year, it might be a little over a year ago, and I said, "Sir," I said, "two things are happening," because we've all had to be patient, Ann. I'm one of the things, if you know me, you look up patience.
You're not a patient man.
I'm not a patient person. I want things done now. So does the president. So do all of us. Well, we've had to learn that this is what I told the president. I said, "This isn't on our timing. This has been on God's timing." I said, "Sir, if you'd have been put back in December 14th or January 6th or any of those times back then, we would have lost our country forever, Ann, and we would have lost it. It would be gone." All this stuff had to happen for many, many reasons, but now we know where everything's at. We know the solutions. We know the problems. I could sit here and I could talk for days. I've lived it 18 hours a day, every day for 4.5 years. And the stuff that was gathered that we have are so far ahead of where we would be if we just stood by and did nothing. But I told the president, I said, "Sir, the bad things that are going on," this is when he kept getting indicted. I remember saying to him, "Sir, you keep getting," he goes, "Mike, what are people thinking out there?" I said, "What?" I said, "Sir, if you keep getting indicted," I said, "people are pouring into this bucket from both sides." I said, "You're going to end up with more votes than voters like Pennsylvania." Because the more they attacked, people saw through this fake stuff. They saw through it. And then I said, "Sir, there's two buckets going on. There's the bucket of common sense. That's your bucket.
That's right.
The more bad things that happen, they pour into this bucket. And then I told him, and the other bucket that's going on, I said, is the bucket of Jesus. And I said, people don't look to God, sir, when things are going good, like you had everything going great in December of 2019. Everybody's lives had improved, but they weren't looking to God. In fact, a nation had turned its back on God when I spoke at the Rose Garden.
That's right.
A nation had taken God out of the school. We were praying for God's grace. And then God did give us grace these last 4 years. It didn't feel like grace, but it was. And I said,
Yeah.
sir, we're in the greatest revival for Jesus Christ ever. Now, that same stuff I told him, and then I told him, man, I said, sir, he says, but Mike, it's, I don't even know. We get back in and I don't know if we can even fix it. And, you know, and everything's just getting destroyed. And I said, sir, with God, all things are possible. And him working through you, you'll get it done faster and better than anyone in history. And it just last Wednesday, I reminded him of that. And I said, sir, you're getting stuff done faster than even I could imagine. And he could only be doing this through God working through him. And he realizes that. And I'll tell you, there was so much empathy and so much pain, even pouring out of him for Tina Peters as he sat there and told that, I'm not going to say who else was in the Oval Office, but they're going, do you know she's going to be 70 years old? She's a Gold Star mom. She's a grandma. And he just went on and on. She needs to get out now. And he's got I really believe that the time I was there before last, I've been there 4 times, and Tina's the first thing on the list. At that time, everybody, he sent, when I was in Colorado in May for my trial, he sent all these demands to Colorado for their election records, okay, for the 2020 election, the 2022 election. I laughed. I told his lawyers, I said, they don't have any of those records left. Colorado just deletes them all. I said, there's only one record from the 2020 election that you can find. And it's right up on Lindell TV, and it's been there for over 2 years. And that's Tina Peters, the Mesa County image. Anybody out there, I have had it up there for 2 years against the lawyers. So, Mike, you shouldn't put that up there. We're going to put up report number 3. I said, you know what? He goes, and you could go to jail. I said, I don't care. I don't care, though. I'm tired of the people saying there's no evidence. And boom, there it is. Do you know, Ann, we took Tina's image to the Facebook fact checkers, Alan Duke and Lead Stories, and we signed an NDA with them. Kurt Olson and I did. We gave them the image. And the Facebook fact checkers, remember everybody when they covered everything up? This was false information. They covered up one of my movies before it even played. And we gave them that Mesa County image for their cyber guys to look at. They came back to us and said, yep, it's true. And I go, Alan, this is Alan Duke. I go, Alan, tell the world you're going to be a hero. I call you a traitor every day. You could make me look wrong to say, now you could go from a traitor to a hero. I said, Alan, in this day and age we're in, you're either a traitor or a hero. There's nothing in between. There's mega heroes like Tina, but there's nothing in between. And then Alan goes, Mike, we're fact checkers. We only tell you when things are false. It was his way out of telling the whole country that
Sure.
image, everything was true on there. And it's so, I just
That's
think
right.
of Tina in there, the loneliness, and I think what keeps her going has to be her faith in God, everybody. I mean, it has to be her faith, and all of you out there and everybody's prayers for her. We have to get her out. Our president's all on board with this. He would have done it the first day, but there's so many things because they're making it a state case. And they get blocked at every corner, Ann, because why? She stands for, just like those 15 people, that's a step in the right direction in Michigan. When that judge did that, that's a brave judge too, because it's a deep Democrat appointed by Gretchen, by her doing that. This is what I really believe. And I want to tell you one last thing, everybody. There's a great plan to secure our elections. Okay, things are going to come out of Washington, D.C. over the next 3 to 4 weeks that are going to be the most explosive stuff you've ever seen for evidence and stuff. And it's going to be up to every one of you watching to get it out there. So all people, not just the mega base, so your friends, your family, people that are still on the left for some crazy reason, people that want to argue about Donald Trump. It doesn't matter, but you need to get them, show them this stuff, that our elections, 132 countries have banned electronic voting machines. Over 100 countries have banned mail-in voting. We are the worst election platforms in the world. You put that out there, and then when the president makes his executive orders and does what I know he's going to do, then he's not going to get pushback. We still are at the levels, but we're going to call out those uniparty Republicans, like your Robin Vosses, your Rassenbergers, your Sarah Sanders, your Nancy Landry down in Louisiana. I could go on and on. I'm just tired of these blockers, but we're going to be blocked no more.
Michael, Mike, your enthusiasm, the level of participation, the level of engagement, the level of dedication, the financial commitment you've made to this process on behalf, I personally thank you. Joe Hoff, sitting right here, has done an incredible job covering the election debacles. He's done a lot to expose what's going on in OC in Orange County, California. He's done, expose after expose. Roger Arnoff, who is a genius, along with Ed Solomon, looking at the math and seeing the algorithms and just looking at the whole picture, which to me, it looks like something on an Egyptian wall from 2,000 years ago. They can see the problems, the anomalies, and the tens of thousands of election volunteers all over the country. It has been a work of a labor of love. And every single one that I talk to credit to you, Mike, it always comes back to, this is a work of God. This is the hand of God. And you said it, and I laughed when I first heard it because I couldn't quite understand what you meant by it, but I see it so clearly now. And I think everybody here would have to agree it had to happen this way in order for us to see just how bad it is. And I thank all of you, and I thank the thousands and thousands of people all over. There's all these election integrity groups that the United South Americans group. There's tons of groups all over this country. I can't even name them all, too many, but they've all worked tirelessly and brought stuff together, and we had to push everything into the middle, and we're seeing it now. I'd like to do something a little bit unorthodox, but I think it's warranted. Tina Peters is going to see this one day, I hope. And I hope it's before September 11th. She turns 70. Do you think we can sing happy birthday to Tina and close it out?
Oh, yeah.
Sounds great.
Are we good? Okay, ready? I'll start. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday,
Tina
Tina Peters.
Happy birthday to you.
Tina, we love you. Happy 70th birthday. I hope you're not seeing this behind bars. You should be out. Mike Lindell, what is the over and under Tina Peters out by her 70? Think there's a shot that she'll be out by Thursday, September 11th?
Well, we can pray for that. With God, all things are possible.
Yes, Mike.
Oh, someone said, yes, Mike. I heard that in the background somewhere.
It's all about Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
And I want to thank you for your voice too. I mean, all of us, your voice has been amazing out there, and you've never stopped. And you're like all of us. It's like one big family that have grown together of people that are courageous, like contagious. We all got to be courageous. Tina Peters has been our leader there, and this is where it's at, everybody. And
we need to make her the grand marshal of an election parade when she gets out.
So
we'll
Mike,
put her in the car and put it.
Mike, can you lead us in a prayer for Tina, please?
Yes, Lord, we know this has all been for you and your timing and your divine appointments that have led us all together. And we just pray now for Tina's release. Now, we ask her to get out as fast as possible, and we ask that all the people, Tina being the biggest one, that they get, that you say you return stuff sevenfold, or that in the Bible you'll give back sevenfold everything that was stolen from Tina. She's like Job in the Bible, and we just pray, Lord, that you've been with her. We thank you for being with her while she's been in there, but we pray for her release in Jesus' name. We pray, and we pray that she can come out of there and know that she's been one of the nation's biggest heroes in history, and that she's also been a hero in your eyes, God, and that she will be rewarded in heaven someday and can lead the parade up there of angels and heroes. God bless.
Amen. Amen. Well, gentlemen, it has been an honor. I just wanted to grab everybody. This is Roger Arnoff's idea. So Roger, shout out and credit to you for this, but thank you. You gentlemen are stalwart. And again, I would have had 100 people on here, but couldn't quite pull it together quickly. Patrick was going to try and pop in and talk about Serbia. I've been watching and following the work with Emerald on your network, Mike, and the reporting she's doing on what's gone on in Serbia. And wow, what a story, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Serbia goes back, everybody. I know the first year, that's just a side thing. I could tell you all about Serbia. I actually put a plane, I paid a lot of money to bring a plane over there and to bring people out of Serbia, and it was shut down at the last minute. That was one of 2 huge planes I sent over there. And you wouldn't believe the blocks and stuff that went on to get them people here. They were whistleblowers back then. So, everything, there's only one truth, all these different camera angles and these different things. There's only one truth. People say, well, your evidence isn't real or your evidence isn't real. No, Roger, it's all mathematics, isn't it? It's all mathematics.
It is. It's all right there, the numbers.
You know what I said, everybody? We talk about the place we were in. I use this example all the time. The place they were in were mathematical deviations that are 1 in 2 trillion and then another 1 in 10 trillion. They made us believe that. Well, it could happen. It could happen. When they took those, when that Democrat down in Georgia, her and her husband and daughter got 0 votes in her own precinct. If they would have gave her 3 votes, you know what they would have said to her? I'm sorry, ma'am. No one loves you but your husband and your daughter. But instead they gave her 0. So they had to look into it. That's the world we were in. And it's just like you show impossibilities, and then they still covered up impossibilities. I stood in my trial with Alex Halderman, and that, I'll tell you, in Colorado, and he sat there on that stand, and I brought up Alabama's dirty voter rolls, and I said, I showed the crooked Secretary of State, John Merrill, in the summer of 21. Here's 4,662 people that voted in Alabama over 110 years old, according to your machine, what came out of your machines. And he looked at me and he said, well, Mike, we live here pretty good here in Alabama. They asked Alex Halderman what he thought of that. He goes, who cares? Alabama has voter ID. You think there's people 150 years old? This was Alex Halderman. The stuff that went on, the stuff that's been uncovered, even in my trial that was uncovered, the Antrim County, Michigan thing, that big cover up there, the biggest cover up right away, everybody, that was a big thing. And Alex Halderman, we had evidence my lawyers uncovered where his report kind of matched. Yeah, there was problem. There was stuff went on with the machines. He met with the CEO of Dominion, and then the same day he met with the Attorney General, I think it was Dana Nessel, met with them in Michigan, and his report changed on day 3 to it was all about human error and paper, had nothing to do with the machine. Boom! And he's supposed to be what? An expert witness. He's another corrupt, paid off person. And I'll tell you what, when I told the president, I said one thing, I said, we're going to recycle, we're going to melt down those machines, turn them into prison bars, and they're going to be, you've got your Jenna Griswolds and all of them hanging on for dear life.
Who was the first arrest?
Yeah, I don't know. They, and they asked me that today. My thing is, that's a parallel track there. My biggest concern is before these midterms, get to paper ballots, hand counted, because you know what? You can always get those corrupt, evil people. But right now we have to get our elections secure. Or I told the president, it's all going to be in vain. They did a poll because I'm thinking of running for governor in Minnesota. I'm getting very, very close.
Soft announcement.
Well,
Jesse Ventura could do it. You could do it, Mike.
But that's right. But they did a poll. Of course, I'm the only one that could win. It was way ahead of any of the other ones. But one of the things that was interesting in the poll was, when you're voting, some of your biggest concerns? List them off in order. Normally it's the economy, the border, abortion, education. Election platforms were number 2 on that list. And at a
Wow.
lot of places in this country, it's their number one concern. Of course, that's a lot of the swing states, but it don't matter where you live. We've got to get rid of them. And the president knows that's his number one concern. He might not tell you out there, but you guys, did he do a great thing? This is one of the greatest moves ever. One of the things we're all up against is we can't, Fox News and Newsmax and Salem Media are never going to talk about the elections of the past elections or machines or paper ballots. It's not going to happen. Well, our great president, if you remember when he was up in Alaska, after Putin, he was live on Fox News with Sean Hannity all over the world, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people. And what does he do? He brings up, we got to get rid of the machines and go to paper ballot. Sean Hannity about had a heart attack. And yes, and same day voting precinct level, he tried to erase them. You didn't even hear machines. He gets done babbling. The president goes, and most importantly, the machines.
He quoted Vladimir Putin. He quoted Vladimir Putin telling him that.
Vladimir Putin said, and he told him that about the mail-in votes. And I sent the president a text. I said, that was brilliant because, they won't let him say any of that stuff on Fox. You guys, we know we have won when Fox News and Newsmax will finally come out and say all the stuff that's going to come out of D.C. that's going to be so explosive. If they start reporting that, we've had to use the news on the left. You got CNN saying more stuff about the election stuff. And how about the mayor of D.C. when she comes out and says, hey, the stuff he's doing ain't so bad. We feel safer. I mean, it's pretty bad when you've got our biggest two outlets are like weather channels that won't report tornadoes or hurricanes. But that was all planned with lawfare, even though I believe Fox is in on it. I do believe Fox is in on it, and I'll stand by that.
Yeah.
I agree with you. They're definitely in on. Well, you got Paul Ryan over there, say no more.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You've got Paul Ryan over there. The textbooks, the history books, if history records this accurately, it's going to be amazing. I'm just wondering, Joe Hoff, what are the people 200 years from now going to reflect upon between 2000 and 2020 and 2028? What are they going to call that 8-year window? What are they going to reflect as?
Yeah, I don't know, but when Trump stood and we all saw it, and we all were, clinging to our TVs or wherever we were seeing it and said, fight, fight, fight. It hit me. That's going to go down as one of the most famous, if not the most famous phrase in maybe human history. It's going to be like ancient Roman, slogans and sayings. It is so powerful what he said. And if we can change all this with God's help, only with God's help. And I love that about Mike said that early on. He was saying, this may be a real blessing, all this. And I'm like, I was working so hard just trying to continue to find this stuff, put it up, keep shoving the truth out there because I thought there's no way they're going to certify this thing.
Right.
And of course, and it happened. And we were just blown away. Yeah. But Mike was saying there's a reason for this. And I think that's really important. This thing. And that extra second, we saw a miracle when Trump just turned that extra last little turn and the bullet grazed him instead of killing him. And we saw a miracle, and it was on TV. And then he stands up and says this thing that's going to be historic. And it's all comes back to basically, this is a battle between good and evil. It's been going on a real, real long time. It may continue. And we need to just be real strong in the face of this. We're not the first people to stand up against injustice, but it's sure, I think all of us will be like Tina or feel like Tina. When she said to me from prison, less than a month ago, maybe a week ago, I'd do it again. I mean, that just said everything. I think we all feel that way. We're not going to allow this country to just fold to a bunch of monsters. No way.
No, absolutely right. And do you guys know, I was asked that too, actually the crooked criminal attorney that I called a traitor, which they put in as evidence in the Colorado case, the last thing he said to the jury, and the judge let him say it. Here's what he said to the jury. You all know Mike Lindell had a net worth of $100 million, and now we've seen his minus $10 million. And we're asking you now for a $60 million settlement here. And you could go more, because if it bankrupts MyPillow and Mike Lindell, we will have sent a message to this country. You don't put out disinformation about our elections. And the judge let him say that, you know. And then the media outside, they're going, well, Mike, you know, then they got a hold of that. Would you, if you could turn back time now, is it worth it? You lost everything, whatever. I said, absolutely. I told you 2 years ago I'd end up borrowing money, and I have. And I'm going, there's nothing left if we lose our country. These guys don't get it. It's not like I have any choices. Once we all know what we all know here, and once we've seen what we've seen, like Tina said many times, once I've seen what I've seen, I can't turn back. I can't go back. I can't just say, oh, I'm afraid. And plus, what God's put you here for, whatever, you know.
That's right.
You know, we all, what God's, you know, and another thing I said to people, you know, I said people would come up, Mike, this doesn't feel like grace, like I said at the Rose Garden. And I said, yes, but I said, oh, but it is. And this goes back to what I was saying for 4 years, and you brought up. In my life, with me, you know, being an ex-crack addict and all that, I look back and I can look, wow, each thing that happened at the time was so devastating. But I look back and wow, that was meant to be in its own way, because I wouldn't be here if this hadn't happened. And I told the president even almost said it word for word when this, I don't know, maybe a month ago, he said, you know what, this all had to happen for this term rather than, you know, rather than it back then. And he gets it. Joe, there's another famous picture that won't go down maybe in history that came out of that shooting. And if you remember, when he was down, it's taken from underneath, and you can see, I've talked to him. That was his moment with God. He sat there, and I could just say, it's like, God, thank you. I'm going to continue on what he was chosen for such a time as this. That was a defining moment. And I talked to him, I said, that's the picture. But, you know, obviously the famous one, fight, fight, fight. But you had to have that moment down below before he stood up, because that was God talking to him and say, you know, and he knows, he said it publicly. God saved me. God saved me. He said when he was doing a speech one night, he said, we love you, God. I mean, it's been amazing. I've seen what God's done through him, and then right along with all of us, or right along with what he's been able to do. It's amazing. There it is, that picture, you know.
So I looked up and I found in Exodus 29:20, Aaron is anointed as the priest of the Israelites with blood on the tip of the right ear, blood on the right thumb, and blood on the right toe. That's what happened to Trump there. Tip of the right ear, the right thumb, and his shoes were off. So when he stood up, he stepped in the blood too. It was on his right toe. It's biblical.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
As you can see, I don't subscribe to CNN, so I'm getting all kinds of ad garbage on this. Sorry about that. Not much I could do, but that's the I draw the line at that. I won't subscribe to those scumbags. Anyway, just remarkable. It's really remarkable times, and the books that'll be written from this time period are going to be pretty extraordinary. Joe, I'm sure you're going to author a few. Mike, I'm sure you will. Roger, you will. I've got to write one. I've got a story to tell as well, but and there's just going to be so much that, like I said, everybody's pushing their poker chips in. The truth is all coming together now, and it's sifting. And have there been a lot of ops, a lot of infiltration by intelligence community people that steer a lot of us wrong, myself included? That's okay. We atone for our sin. When we find out we're wrong, we explain it. We shout it from the rooftops and we move on. I mean, we've all had to learn together a lot, and in a very short amount of time, and it's been a fire hose. But we're done. They're not getting this over on us anymore. And the people are rising up and speaking, not just in our country, but worldwide. And Tina represents, I think, liberation for people around the world, because she helped catch them. She helped catch what the CIA was doing with Smartmatic and with, countries like Serbia around the world. And God bless you, Mike. I've spoken to the people that were on the plane that you paid for to go over to Serbia. I heard about the windshield story and the whole thing. You spent a fortune trying to during COVID, you spent a fortune trying to get to the truth and bring the whistleblowers back. And
do you know, Ann, one of the things I'll never forget, you guys, is that I believe this was January of 21, when, of course, I was getting attacked, losing all the box stores. I was in the news every single day. The famous picture of me at the White House on the phone, but I got called from the Serbia underground, and I'm not Serbia, Venezuela underground. I was on the phone with them. I'll bet you 10 times in January, all these Venezuelans on the phone, and they told me, they go, don't ever give up. They said, we have lost our country, and we prayed for the last 20 years that it would happen to the United States, and then it would be all uncovered, and it would in turn free our country. And they had tears in their eyes pleading with me not to give up. I'm going, this is just surreal. And
do you know, Mike, when I was in the Darien Gap with Michael Yon last year, and we were, watching the Venezuelans that were still coming through before the election, I said, they told us that 80% of their country had left and come to America. And I said, you understand what's going on in America right now. If President Trump doesn't win this election, you've got Biden, which is just as bad as Maduro or Chavez, worse, right? And they said, no, we're coming to your country now to help you fight, because we need you to win. We need Trump to win. We're not going to let America become Venezuela. And I was sitting there going, oh my God, because these people have nothing. Now have I seen a lot of bad people come through the Tren de Aragua that Biden invited in there? Absolutely. But then they had real Venezuelans they had nothing to lose except they saw America was the only hope. They said, no, we're coming to help you Americans because you cannot let your country go down. I thought, oh my God, this is a real world event trying to lift us up. And, we're God's second covenant nation. So we have a duty and responsibility, in our role in humanity. And it's really quite remarkable. This whole thing has been such an epic journey.
No, it really is. I know the one thing I told him, because I had the evidence, all the evidence I had then. I said, you guys, I got all the evidence. I said, don't worry, it's going to happen real fast. And I'm all excited. And boy, little did I know we'd be talking here 4.5 years later.
I know.
And I will say this, one of my most defining moments I remember is when I tried to get the president on January 15th, and this was to sign Dennis Montgomery's gag order to release that, right? And I was on the phone with Ben Carson. We had become really good friends, and he had dug into all this. And after I get shooed out of the White House, I remember going across the bridge into Virginia. Ben calls me up. He said, did he sign it? I said, I was just so down and ready, and it's almost in tears, like, here, I think we have the key to the whole world sitting in her lap, and it failed. I failed. And Ben calmly, his calm voice, he goes, well, Mike, he goes, God doesn't look at dates like November 3rd or January 6th or December 14th. Maybe things have to happen on God's timing before all the truth can come out. And I sat there, and it just gave me a peace, those words, like I've never forgot. And I go, you know what, Ben, you're probably right. And as soon as I got across in Virginia, my daughter sends me a text and goes, what are you doing? Get out of there. It's the picture of me at the White House with martial law papers hanging out of my hand.
I remember that. I remember that. We were all like, what the hell is Mike doing now?
Yeah. And then here's a little side bit for all of you. Those weren't my papers. Those come from some lawyers as recommendations. I had never read them to this day. But on there it says Kurt Olson, right? So Kurt Olson, I didn't know Kurt Olson from The Man in the Moon, and Kurt's sitting at home with his wife or whatever, and all of a sudden they see this pillow guy on TV with martial law papers 9 days after January 6th with Kurt Olson written on the papers. He's going, what? You can't make it up. And then we become best friends, and the rest is history on that part.
Yep. Oh my God, what a ride. What a ride. And you gave me a ride one time, Mike, too. I got stranded because I was on the domestic terror list and my flight got canceled. And it was a hella trying to get from your one of your other symposiums, the Moment of Truth. In Missouri, trying to get back. I got a ride on in your plane one time to Virginia so I could catch another plane home. I mean, it's just been trains, planes, and automobiles. What a ride.
Yeah.
What a ride.
Really
we're close. We're really close.
They put me on it when I was on the way to Arizona to do a show with Liz Harris, and boy, what a nightmare! It's 4 S's on the bottom of your boarding pass.
That was me every week, 6-8 times a week, dude. I got the second base.
I'll tell you, I've had to sell my plane since then with it going broke, but before that, I had only flew commercial the one time, and it was during the China virus Well, that's the only time I wore a mask, you guys. So I'm in the airport wearing this mask so I don't, I can get recognized. Well, we get up to the TSA and he has me pulled away. Are you Mike Lindell? He goes, can I get your picture? The people are pulling down masks, taking pictures because everybody at that time was all on board. And another funny one was with Kurt Olson. So then when Kurt Olson and I finally got together, this was the first day everybody, when I told Dominion to sue me, I said, sue me, Dominion, because I wanted them to sue me. Well, here, the day they sued me was the first day I met Kurt Olson, and we were sitting down in Mar-a-Lago out by the beach there on that little cafe. It was just him and I. And the first call was the New York Times, I believe. And I go, yeah, I got to take this call. And she gets on, I put her on speaker. She goes, you just got sued by Dominion, Mike. What do you feel? I said, it's a great day for America. And all day long they're calling and I said, this is a great day. I said, because the media, as they'd attack me, that's all I had was to go, we got to get rid of the machines. It's a great day. They sued me. Now the evidence will come out. And Kurt's learned that that's who I am. That was it. He goes, that's kind of weird twist. He goes, I said, oh yeah, that's the only way I get the word out. I love it.
That's it. That's it. You got to get discovery, baby.
You get discovery.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what should have happened. I didn't know they'd be $50 million lawsuits. And do you know my Dominion and Smartmatic has put out 2 more years? And Dominion actually said, I think my one attorney said something to him. Yeah, would you settle if Mike Lindell just walked away and wouldn't badmouth you anymore? And they said, yeah. I said, don't be telling that. I won't settle with them ever. I said, oh yeah, I'm going to walk away and not say anything that rhymes with Dominion. And then my lawyers in Colorado, this was the best. My lawyer gets up there, his opening statements, he goes, I want it to be known that Mike is an equal opportunity machine basher. He's as after ES&S and Hart as much as Dominion and Smartmatic. So I bash them all equally, okay?
Oh, that's awesome.
This I can tell you, they're all the same. They're all doing we found the same stuff. We found the same stuff, lockstep motion and these quaternionic rigs in Maryland that has ES&S. Exactly the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Incredible. Well, listen, gentlemen, I've kept you guys on long enough. God bless you. I love all of you. You're amazing men. You're just incredible fighters. Tina Peters is an amazing woman and a very lovely, lovely lady. I've had the opportunity to spend private time with her, personal time with her on several occasions. We've bunked together in hotel rooms and we've had to have, personal heart-to-hearts. And she's a real lady, a real fighter, a real patriot, and probably one of the greatest Americans that'll walk the planet. And, if Trump gets his face on Rushmore, probably Tina Peters should be somewhere up there alongside him, along probably the three of you as well. But, this country is being refounded because of the work.
And I got to tell this funny story about Tina, though.
Go.
So Tina,
go.
When we first met, we only met at the Cyber Symposium. Well, I don't know, maybe I actually was down in Mar-a-Lago. I don't know if it was a month later or whatever. And I get this text and it said, they're saying they're Tina Peters. And I go, you're a bot. I go, don't sell me. I said, you're a bot. That's how I would answer. And she sends me another text. No, I'm really Tina. I go, bot, leave me alone, whatever. Cause I would have all these bots attack my thing. So she calls up, I think she goes, Mike called me a bot. We joked about that because I'm going, because her name wasn't in there, and I go, but it was so funny. She goes, Mike called me a bot.
Oh, God.
I had no idea it was really her.
Oh, that's classic. Oh my God. Like I said, the books that'll be written, the movies that'll be made, epic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, gentlemen, God bless you. Happy birthday, Tina Peters. You are loved. You are so loved and revered and respected by billions, not just millions. Billions will know her name for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Billions will know her name. She was the linchpin there. And she didn't realize how big what she did was going to be. But, she said she'd do it again. And she's, 11 months, almost 12 months in prison. Yeah. Incredible. She would do it again. I hope and pray. I'm going to, pray. I hope everybody tonight, when we hang up here, everybody please spend some time and pray for Tina Peters' release immediately, preferably before her 70th this Thursday on September 11th, another day this country has had to endure. It's just another anniversary on that awful day. But the truth of that's coming out. There's some big events happening tonight and this weekend about 9/11. The truth about all that's coming out. So it's a floodgate right now. And Tina Peters, you're at the tip of the spear because you've, I believe, liberated billions of people from tyranny of stolen elections around the world. God bless you. God bless you.
Amen.
Mike Lindell, thank you so much. Joe Hoft, the incomparable Joe Hoft, and Roger Arnoff, thank you so much for your time this evening, gentlemen. You're just all heroes to me. God bless you.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you, Ann.
All right. You guys, good night. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. It's been a wild ride as always. And what a time to be alive that we are all here for such a time as this. You were all chosen to be here, as was Tina Peters, as were those fine gentlemen. And it's my honor to talk with you again this evening. And thank you so much for your support over the years. It's been really fun. And I'm going to continue to do the work I'm doing. I'm doing a lot more advocacy, a lot more action-oriented work. There's incredible people out there covering the news. But when I think a story is important, I'm going to come on and talk to you about it. So until the next time, God bless you. I love you all. And check out my website, AnnVanderStill.com. And also the work that we did with the documentary we dropped on Child Protective Services. We exposed them in a big way. We've got a massive federal lawsuit we're dropping and some other lawful actions and litigation we're bringing to the state of Massachusetts on their unlawful actions towards people that have their children taken by Child Protective Services. Till next time, everybody. Good night.